The year was 2011, and it seemed as though the call for suicide intervention was at an all-time high. People were calling, texting, and inboxing me regarding their concern about the end of times about to happen on December 12th, 2012. It was during this time that we realized we had a community of teachers, healers, coaches, and spiritual guides that could support teaching people how to ground themselves spiritually. Masterforce, along with the Masterforce International Leadership Academy, is excited to be able to steadily present this work to you at no cost to you. However, all of our speakers donate their time, energy, and attention to this process, and they only do this at the thought of contributing to the upliftment and empowerment of our community. When we launched our very first Ignite Your Soul Connection for the winter solstice of 2012, the producer was Leela Woodward and the facilitator was Janice Bond. As the executive producer, my role was to create the topics, round up speakers for 15 nights, generate the questions, and design the platform. We were all delighted with the outcome. However, since that time, we have continued to produce these episodes at the winter and summer solstice inside of a 6-night discussion segment. You can find these previous episodes on YouTube under the same name, Ignite Your Soul Connection. Now sit back and enjoy tonight's discussion.
Welcome, everyone. This is day 3 of Ignite Your Soul Connection. We are so excited to be able to bring this conference to you and actually share the information that's going to support you in creating your home as a haven. If you have joined us since Sunday, you had a chance to actually get the conversation about what is a home in a haven. And then last night, we had a wonderful conversation about a feng shui for mommies. You can actually look at those replays on our YouTube channel called Ignite Your Soul Connection, or you can just look at the features on the page that you're on now. Just go back to the previous 2 days. Now, before we start our conversation, I want to remind you that today is the eve of the winter solstice. 2022. I'm going to suggest that for the next 4 days, you prepare yourself to actually digest a wonderful new life that you would like to bring forth in the spring. Now, how do you do that? I want you to create a script. I want you to create a health and wellness script. This script is going to include affirmations, visualizations, gratitude, and completion. I want you to actually know what it is that you want to see come forth. And then you read this script for the next 4 days. And then on the 25th, you let it go and you trust the process. And that is how we use the energy of the winter solstice. To make it even more potent, we suggest that you pull back from television, pull back from dynamic music that can get in there and interrupt your thoughts, pull back from conversations that can interrupt your flow, and then also maybe fast and detox. All of these will give you strength to visualize and create the life that you want to bring forth. All right, so that's my 2 cents on the matter. And tomorrow we will start sharing different things that you could do during the next 4 days. So tonight, our conversation is with 2 of the amazing Masterforce coaches, Dr. Marlene and Nicole, Keisha. Okay, we're going to have a conversation about the facets of communication. And what in the world do we mean by that? We know that how you speak and how you talk can either create or destroy your families, your relationships. It can just destroy the energy all around you. And we're going to have these two wonderful people tell us how we can straighten that out. Now, I always start with the senior most coaches. So, Dr. Marlene, come in and please introduce yourself and let people know what made you decide to become a Master Force coach and actually get really personal with this work.
Well, my name is Dr. Marlene Fain, and I am originally from Chicago, lived various places. I became a Master Force coach in 2013. And the reason I did was because I felt adrift and disconnected. And I had been in the realm of transformation since the early 80s. And I didn't have those energies around me. I didn't have people who didn't let me play my violin. I had people who were rescuers, and I had been out the mood for many, 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 many years. And the planets aligned, and I was able to become join Master Force. And it was one of the greatest things that I have ever done. I have met the most marvelous human beings, and I have a tribe. I have people who function from abundance, health, um, wealth, and spiritual well-being for the planet, and for ourselves. And so that's that. And my family, I have 3 adult children. I have 5 grandchildren. I believe I have 13 great grandchildren.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
That's wealth. That's wealth.
yeah, it's quite exciting. So, and the reason that I'm going to share what makes me a matter on the subject of communication is because I just always have loved words, and knowledge and information, and communication was my thing. I wanted to be able to communicate to whomever, however, whether it was visually, verbally, orally, ASL, you name it. I didn't want to hear no stories about why you don't understand me. So that's why I did it, and I've been communicating a good while. So there you have it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And it has been a pleasure having you just in the tribe, and we're in a few tribes together. So, I just love that.
I never let you go.
You,
I chased you. I chased you, girl. I chased you down. But anyway,
I remember when you said that. You said, "Girl, I've been trying to catch you for years." I'm like, "What?"
yeah, I love you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Keisha Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and let them know why you became a Master Force coach as well?
Well, hey y'all. Hey, Keisha Nicole, aka Morgan Splendor, aka K Nicole. I became a Master Force coach because I had friends and family and individuals, even while in the church, come to me talking to me about their personal lives and things that were going on. And the main topic for me was always about relationships. I've always been one to encourage people in their relationships, advise them, whether it was through spirit or biblically. So I was always able to do that. And life coach coaching, I came into it wanting to help other people, but I got all the help. I learned a lot about myself and things that I needed, and how much I needed to grow into the gifts and callings that I already possess. So and I was similar to I call her affectionately so Mama Marlene. She like as the way she is. I found her. I was like, oh my God, who is this woman and what is she saying? And we had so many people in common, and somebody shared something with me, and I just kept following her. I followed her and followed her, and then finally sought her out, and I've been with Master Force ever since. I want to say it was in 2015 when I joined. Since then, I have had the opportunity to work with so many other individuals and continuing in the vast of relationship coaching, as well as I say individual and personal coaching as well.
Yes. Very.
Let me see. I have 3 children. I have four grandchildren, 3 girls and a boy. Love them. And in reference to the subject matter, like Mama Marlene, I've always been involved in the arts of communication. Not always, not always seen as such, because my mouth continues to glow. It just glow and it flows, baby, however you want. So through theater, through public relations, as well as film and television. So speaking and using my words, just always been so. Always been so.
That is so wonderful. And I love that all of us have that connection to communication. I didn't discover that I had a love for communication until I was much older. And then I realized that nobody ever talked to me when I was growing up. So then it was like, oh yeah, the love of words. But I read a lot. I did read a lot, and I did write a lot of poetry, so those were ways that I used communication.
That's out there.
Yeah, for my inner work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was a part of my situation. I was an only child, and books were my life.
That's
books
right.
in the library, and I was an introvert. Even though I'm bad my business, people were always around me asking me stuff. I don't know, children. I don't know why you're doing this, but I would, do my best to counsel whatever it was, what the heck I was talking about, but that's the way it was, and in doing that, just like as yourself, when you spend time with you, and, I didn't even like to talk to people. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even like people. And then of course I did the training like you did landmarking, and I did LifeSpring, and I found out that the universe gives us people, and we're to do what we need to do with those people in the spirit of the spirit.
That's right. That's right. So let's go ahead and kick off this conversation. And I want to talk about it from a different direction. I'd like us to actually talk about what was communication like growing up in your household. And then I also want you to look at that and imagine what it could be like for our children now. So, yeah, so either one of you can start. What was communication like growing up in your household?
What'd you say, Mama? You
Go
want to
ahead,
go?
Keisha. No, you go.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna just say my family was strict in my household. My mother and my stepfather. It was speak when you're spoken to, stay out of grown folks' business, leave me, go on your, go watch TV. So we were always told to hush. But like I said in my introduction, I was that wasn't always the case for me. Even though I always talked back, I always had something to say. Not disrespectfully so, but just always having to always ask questions, always intuitive. So I would say that it was strict in a way where we didn't they didn't really communicate with us. We were separate from adult conversations. My mom, we were church going individuals, right? So we were told that we not necessarily ask questions, but just stay in your place, if you will. But if I did have a question, if I had some concerns, they will always answer for me. Never, not don't say that, or you can't ask that question. If I ask anyone, my mother, my father, or any adults questions, I always receive the answer. Now, bringing it to when I became a parent, I was totally different. I allowed my children to speak. I gave them the freedom to have conversations with me about whatever it is that they wanted to have conversations with. Now, you still had to stay out of grown folks' business, because that's what I was taught. But I still gave them a little bit more freedom than what I had when I was growing up.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Marlene, what about you?
Um, well, kind of like Keisha. I mean, my environment was strict. I I spent a lot of time with adults. Short version is because I was the first child of on my father's side and my mother's side. So I was like the thing, and so I had a lot of freedom, but I still had discipline. It's kind of thing like, well, if you do this, that, and the third, I'm gonna tell your father when he get home, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like it. I didn't get, I didn't, they didn't, my mother, they didn't yell at me. They didn't, but like I was a really cool kid, I have to say, I was just like cool. So I wasn't problematic until I became a teenager. So communication was pretty cool. They were pretty permissive. And then I went to Catholic school, so I had discipline and I had, I went to church and, it was just like, so I really didn't even talk that much for real.
Now, that's a whole nother story right there.
That's a whole nother thing. So yeah, that's about, so I don't have no communication issues, Now,
Mama Marlene mentioned yelling. Now, yelling was definitely a thing in my household. My mother was a yeller. My stepfather and my father, they were not, but my mother was a yeller, and I am gonna be honest that I got the yelling gene too. And so did my eldest daughter as well. I am a yeller. I yelled at my children. I fussed. I did that more so than that was my way of disciplining, instead of whipping them. So,
but see, like, what I noticed as well, like you said, with my children, I yelled. I didn't like yelling, but I would yell because when I would ask them to do something very nicely, please, blah, 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 and I would get no response. And then as soon as I said, if you don't hear, blah, 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 you can imagine what I said. Then I got motion in the ocean, they started moving around. Exactly. But just like Keisha with my children, I gave them permission to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you need, if you have the nerve to ask me whatever it is you want to ask me, I'm going to answer the question for you. My mother did always say the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. So, and now we as Master Force people, I mean, we question everything anyway, you know what I'm saying? We authority. I mean, like, I got put out of class because I wanted to know about the Immaculate Conception. So, it was that kind of era time, where you couldn't ask, you couldn't say certain things. So, yeah. We're much more permissive as parents.
Now, did you notice if your parents or guardians actually adapted a different way of speaking to you than what they did when they were speaking to others or to other adults? Did you notice that difference?
For me, like, not really, because I was always around grown people. I wasn't really around nobody but my cousins and school stuff in terms of kids. So, I was just always around grown people, but I wasn't in their face. You know what I mean? Like, right. I still had a child's place. If they were going to say something inappropriate, they would send me off to be with an aunt or something like that, which was very rare, because they was all they did was party. All they did was party and drink and play cards and stuff, and we were sneaking around doing all that. But yeah, no, they didn't they didn't communicate with me any differently. They didn't do like, grown folks when they get together, they curse and they do whatever they do. They didn't do any of that stuff around me, so no.
What about you, Keisha?
I have to say no, because my mom, she was, and I'm thinking of when I was uh this was before becoming a teenager, and when I was younger. My mother, she was the same. Again, she was a church going lady. She was we had the house that all the children wanted to come to, and at church she was the same. She didn't change her ways. She had the, she wore a smile and she spoke with a smile. um but if you're speaking about when she was angry, now that was a totally different story. If I did something out of pocket, out of line, or if we were, running around and we weren't listening to her at certain times, my mother's voice would change. Her register would go a little bit deeper. You know what I'm saying? And it would cause like a vibration. You could feel it, through your body if she ever yelled at you. When she called my name, when I wasn't hearing her, she called it a few times and I didn't come. Now that was a whole different story. But other than rather than with the way she communicated, the way she spoke to individuals, and I'm using her as a reference because she's my mom. And I would say that with the rest of the adults in my family, just like Mama Marlene, we were allowed to be around them, but when they were going to say something that we weren't supposed to hear or be a part of, they definitely sent us out of the room, sent us upstairs, sent us in somebody in another area of the home to have those discussions. So I would say no. I would say no.
So then, can you say that you didn't have the opportunity to see ineffective communication where children are concerned? Because that the conversation about communication, before we could talk about it, we have to demonstrate where it doesn't work.
Well,
Right.
I would say,
Go ahead,
I'm
baby.
sorry, Mama. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead. Okay. I saw it in my cousins, you know what I'm saying? Like when we would go to their house or something, how my aunts and uncles would communicate with them was like way different, but they had more kids than my mom and dad had. So I don't know if that made it any different or not, but the dynamic was definitely different. It was still loving and all of that, but it was more dictatorial and more authoritarian. You know what I mean? It was like there was love there, but you could feel it more like from my uncle than my auntie. My auntie was mean. So I experienced it with them, but they never talked to me any kind of way because my daddy wouldn't have it. But
So have you ever seen children crushed by adults communicating to them?
oh, absolutely.
But that's what we wanted, because so here's the thing: we want to get into that level of communication because it's not so much pointing to how good our parents were, because we don't want to put them on the judgment stand.
Right.
But we really want to really pull apart what it looks like for adults to talk to children in a way that doesn't have them blossom and grow. We want people so people can actually see that we have to change. We have to cultivate something different. As you said, loving. They can be as dictatorial as they want to if they're loving. But if you're mean and harsh, so that's
what? I'm gonna say this, move to that. I did have a step grandmother. And I'm gonna tell you now. We can get down to the nitty gritty of it all. She was the meanest something. And she was a Pisces. I learned later in my life, as I got older, and that really bothered me. I think she probably was a February type Pisces because I could not understand why that woman was so mean to us. She was the prettiest woman I ever did see. Pretty, fair skin, long, beautiful hair, wore the little glasses that came down the hip. And she was mean to me and my siblings awful lot. I did have some aunties that were very like Mama Marlene, very mean. And in my household, I can speak to the fact when it was, I didn't experience the meanness from my mother until I became a teenager, right? So that's when her world changed, my world changed. When things happened in her life, she did indeed, because I was the eldest child, I got the brunt of it all. When she and my stepfather separated, I had to take care of the family, if that makes sense. And if I didn't do right, it was, I was, she did find a way to discipline me. And one thing that's coming to my mind that she did that hurt my feelings in communication and conversation. I remember coming home from high school, my freshman year. I had uh I tried out for the choir. I tried out for dance. I tried out for theater, everything. In order for you to get into this school, it was Curie Metropolitan High School. We had to audition. So I was very proud of myself. My stepfather made certain that I was in took vocal classes, dance classes, piano classes, all of that. My mother, I don't think she had that as a child. And when I came home from school and I expressed to my mom, how happy I was, and I was like, Mommy, I can sing. Mommy, I sang at school today. And she said, I can sing too. And I said, oh, well, okay. She told me, don't you come here telling me, about what you can do and how much you're doing. She was like, I could do it too. And I said, okay. And I walked away. I will never forget that.
Now, you all, we're not going to have a therapy session on
No,
this.
no, no. I'm sharing.
No,
No
no,
therapy.
no, Keisha, hold up now, hold
Okay.
up, because we may need to have a therapy session. I'm just saying, if we have to go there, we have to go there.
Oh, okay. No. No therapy needed.
Yeah. Okay, it may not be here, but because this is exactly the little bit, you see that little bit of change right there.
Mm-hmm.
It does have an effect.
It does.
And so what we want to do is we want to see how our parents communicated with us made a difference, and how we also communicate to our children and to ourselves. Most of us have what is called a critical adult in our head.
Yeah.
Our parent is
Okay.
criticizing us still. Everything that we do becomes critical. It becomes as though you're not good enough. That's where the whole conversation, because they're always correcting, always criticizing, always analyzing, always examining. And if that happened to you growing up as a child, you continue to do that until you interrupt it. You see that?
Okay. Talk about it.
Yeah. So then when we talk about communicating and making it effective, and the question that comes up to me is, why is effective communication described as an art?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to create it.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you create it? You create it from the different pieces of your childhood that you're releasing and forgiving.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about from that perspective, I had a stepmother who I used to call her a little troll, and
You called your grandmother a troll.
no, it's my stepmother.
Stepmother.
She was my
Your
stepmother.
stepmother, a
Yeah,
troll.
a troll. Yeah,
Okay.
and she was mean. She was very mean. She had a daughter. My father had a son by her. And of course, I was the oldest, so short version is she would do her best to verbally abuse me. But by the time I was with her, I was like 14, 15. And it couldn't go on. It's like I was pretty solid in who I was as a being, but not really. Like I knew who I was, but I didn't know who I was. And Dorothy was very belittling to people in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it's because she was short or whatever, you know, because short people got issues, some of them, Keisha.
Yeah, and we probably don't want to use people's
yeah,
names.
I challenge people.
we
So,
don't,
so
we
I don't
don't
know
know
what it
who's
was, but
listening.
she was mean as spit. Okay. So when I think about it, I was with them like for a short time, you know, and yeah, but I have seen young people. I guess the best, for instance, I can give you is art school, and how people are critiqued, and how sensitive their shell is, you know. So we would do the critique, and I mean, these teachers, they would vilify these children. I mean, they would be in tears, mood. I mean, in the hallway just crying, because of course I was older when I was there. And I looked at them, you know, and I was like, wow. And the work was good. The work was not bad or anything like that. And I don't know if they call themselves talking to them as lesser than in order to make them dig deeper. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what the impetus was for them to be vicious, but I have seen people broken down by community. Like you said, you know, words can either uplift you or destroy you. Yeah. It depends on your delivery, you know, what it is you want to do, how you want that person to experience what's going on, etc. But I won't go on. But yes, I have seen.
So when we actually put it inside of communication as an art,
yes,
and then that means that you have to be conscious. You have to be mindful of what you're saying. It can't be that you just rattle out your mouth because that's what I feel like saying. You see that there's no creativity in that.
And then you also have to be conscious of how you receive what someone is saying. You know, as a child, that's not something that is readily, you know, something that you
Yeah, so you can't put that onus on a child. That's where it has to be an adult. An adult has to be the responsible communicator. Right. So a child is just going to absorb. A child, the reticular activating system does not come into the age of 7. Up until that age, they are just sponges. So all they're going to do is emulate your behavior. So when you see children in kindergarten and people are saying they're bullies, I promise you that they were bullied at home.
Oh, definitely.
And it didn't necessarily have to be their parents. It could have been their older siblings. Right? So we want to begin to use communication as a form of expression that's going to make our home peaceful, where we can honestly say, I'm going to take on not yelling. Yelling is no longer acceptable. Why? Because it's a frequency. You change.
You know what? That's on my notes. I wrote that down for this.
So that frequency changes, and it changes the vibration in the body of a child.
And you as well.
And you as well. And if the child is sensitive, which most of our children coming in now, indigo children came in sensitive, the rainbow children came in even more sensitive. Then you had the star seeds, and all of them came in, the crystals, sensitive, so that we can start being sensitive and be able to change ourselves. We want to learn from the children. We don't want to be always that we're dictatorial and telling them what to do. Sometimes we want to observe and quietly emulate them just like they're doing us.
So I can honestly say that came later for me.
Yes.
As I grew, and learned a little bit more about the art of communication.
Yes.
With my children, yes, as I stated earlier, yes, I was a yeller when I, you know, in the morning, a yeller in the evening, a yeller in the all day long. But when it's time to, one of the things that I remember is sharing with them, speaking to them, being that I was in theater. That was something that I did. So I didn't grow up with that knowledge in the household, in my mother and my parents' household. But as a parent, I did do that with my children, yielded time for them to communicate. They may not see it that way all the time
Yeah,
because
so that's right. So sometimes our role, as you know, as we look back, we may need to apologize to our children because
I
we did learn later.
yes,
You
yes,
understand? Like
yes.
we were children too, learning from how people treated us. And
Exactly.
we just came and brought that to our parenting style. And then later we realized where my parents were ineffective with me, not that they didn't love me, but it was ineffective for who I was to become, then how was I ineffective with my children? Because sometimes that verbal apology allows something in them to recalibrate.
Mhm.
And the verbal apology, I'm gonna say, came from me from my parents for the things that they didn't do. I actually brought it to them, you know, but because I had to bring it to them and to get an apology for things that they done, the turnaround for me was go to my children to say, I apologize. And not just for the mistakes I've made. And you are right. You're definitely right. And this is, we're speaking to single parents. Even though my children's fathers were in their lives, I was the primary caregiver after divorce and separation. Um, that is something that I did do. I had to apologize to them because I didn't know. But as they began to become parents, as their parents now, I remind them of what they did not like that I did. So let's take a time to remember and reflect on, what was it like being a child, and what was it that you did, that bothered you as far as communication goes with from your parent. Let's switch that around. Let's do it a little different for your children, for my grandbabies.
Right. I know my son told me a while back, he said, Ma, he was like, I just realized you were growing up when we were growing up. I was like, did you just realize that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, hallelujah. Because you guys were living my life. You weren't
Yeah.
living your life. You were living my
Exactly. Oh
life,
my God.
and your life got incorporated with mine. And
Mhm.
I was flying by the seat of my pants because even though my parents were loving and all this, that, and the third, they didn't tell me nothing about sex. They didn't want me to have none. Okay.
Yep.
They didn't
Isn't
tell
that the truth? They think
they
that not
didn't
telling
tell
you
me nothing
about
about
sex.
nothing. Okay. They didn't tell everything I learned. I learned when I would ask my mom, she said, everything you want to know is gonna be out there when you get out there. Okay.
Oh
And me,
my.
I'm like chomping at the bit to get out there. And Lord have mercy. I should have stayed at home. Okay, baby. But it's all good, it's all good because I had to do the same thing. I had like, I'm like, look, if you guys got anything you need to say, or you got any issues, or
Yep.
whatever we need to address, whatever you think I didn't do, how I did it,
Yep.
whatever your conversation is, let's have that,
Yep.
and I accept all that and I apologize and let's
Mhm.
move forward, and what you need to know that no matter what the heck happened, however it went down, I love you all. I mean, like, I love you.
Exactly.
That is the bottom line for me,
Well, in one of the saving graces for all of us as parents is that we were doing the best that we could with
with
what
what you
we
know.
knew.
Yeah,
And then when we knew better, we did better.
Yes. Yes.
absolutely.
And so, for all the parents, that's one of the things, but that's not a license to continue to do something that you know is ineffective.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you know that you're ineffective, it's important to stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and take a look. Because
Yeah.
I was hollering at Michaela. Michaela and I would get into it, and I promise you I would get out of my body. I mean, just out of my body. And I told her, I was like, look, little girl, I'm not going through this with you. This is so not cool. This is negative energy for you and for me. Okay. It does not work. And we can't do this. I don't even like to do this. It's not what I do. This is not who I am. I'm about love and peace, and you having the best life that the universe can give you, as well as myself. And so, we work through it, but I can't talk to her like she is 7. You know what I'm saying? I've never been able. She was one of the indigo children who was here before 3 times, etc. You know what I'm saying? She like 43 when she was 4. So I'm like, it's been a challenge to work with her mentality as an adult, because she likes to tell me that I'm of a different generation, era, and time, and I know nothing basically about them. So.
Well, here's a question that can help us too. So when you're speaking to someone, what is the trigger for you to let you know that you need to shift your tone? Because a lot of times we have not created a measure or criteria within ourselves that says, okay, stop talking, bring it down, lower, no escalation. How do you, because that's part of the communication as a form of art. Because if you're creating, you have to be mindful of the energy and the frequency and the vibration that you're also feeding into.
Well, that's the key right there. Being mindful and being aware, which in turn means that if you're going to speak softly or speak with intent in order to change or empower or whatever the situation is, you gotta first be soft with yourself. Like in my experience, when you talk to you or when you are with you have to be aware of, as you say, those triggers. Like my trigger is lying. Okay. I don't care if you lie and I catch you in a lie after I said the only thing that can make me come out of my body is you lying to me, because you don't have to, because I'm your protector. Okay?
Well, let me say this though about lying. And this may be helpful as well.
They be scared.
No, if first of all, if someone is lying to you, you want to know that you have not created a safe space for them to be truthful. So it could be that if they
When you say someone, are you speaking of children? Or are you speaking
yes, children, adults, whoever, communication, whoever, and especially children.
Okay.
Because it really is interesting for me to hear parents saying that their children lie, and their children listen to the parents lie all day long.
Yeah, well.
But the children can't call the parents on a lie, right? It could be a small lie, telling somebody, oh, I got to get off the phone because such and such and such, when really that's a lie. And then you turn around and get very mad at the child because they lied to you about something that the child might have thought was small. So we have this hypocrisy that is just really so huge that we don't have room for people to just be themselves. Because I'm telling you, in the house, I just watch these adults and I'm like, how you going to tell me to do something right? And I'm just watching you do the wrong thing all the time. So we want to be mindful that lying literally falls over here in our listening. That the
So
child.
I wanna make certain that I understand and that the viewers
Yes.
or listeners
Go ahead.
are understanding as well. You're saying that if you're because we're talking about making the home a haven, right?
Yes,
And
right.
we're speaking to specifically to the single mother. You're saying that we are responsible for making the home a safe space for the child. Now, do you not see that as being because a parent may feel that they are, but the child, how are we to know through that child lying that the house?
Well, there's the mirror. Isn't that the mirror? The mirror right there.
I'm asking for the listener because I'm
No,
listening.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So anytime something shows up for you, it's a mirror, and the mirror is going to reflect to you. So
See,
if in front of you, you're saying that that child just lied to you,
Mm-hmm.
instead of you saying to the child, you're a liar, you lied, you want to step back and realize, wait a minute. If they're lying, that means that they don't feel safe communicating to me.
Hmm.
So
well,
now,
yeah, I mean, because
oh, wait, let me
they're
finish. Let me
afraid.
finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
So now in that space, you have an opportunity to shift the communication.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
now, instead of going through the whole "you a liar" and da da da, now you can say, well, what's really going on?
Yeah.
Do you not feel comfortable sharing with me what's happening? Because this is what I know.
Thank you, Mira.
I saw this or I heard that, and I want you to know that I'm asking for information. I don't want to punish you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But if you can't tell me the truth in the house, if something happens out in the street, I can't vouch for you.
Right. Right.
I can't vouch for you. So I want to create a relationship that you can openly tell me what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I don't agree with it, I'm going to listen and we'll decide what the consequence could be.
Okay. Okay.
If I used to let my kids set their own discipline and punishment, because if I put you on punishment, that means I have to stay in the house and watch you. So I'm not
Exactly.
doing it. You tell me, what are you going to sacrifice for that circumstance, right?
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying, Keisha?
No, I do. And
That
one of our
peacefulness comes around there.
Yes, ma'am. And one of our viewers said it took a long time for her to get to that place. That's why I really wanted you to touch on that, because I know that when I was rearing my children, I felt that I created a space for them to speak, but they also feared punishment. See,
Right.
I didn't do where you can pick your own punishment because I didn't get
Well,
to
of
pick.
course not. Yeah, yeah. That's what
So
I'm saying. So we're
yeah.
creating, because right now, the challenge that we're facing right now is
Mhm.
that the children right now in the street are not feeling loved, accepted, appreciated, or cared for.
Mhm.
And we keep acting like they're the problem,
Mhm.
I
when
know.
actually
I
we
know.
have created whatever we see. Those are our mirrors. That's the reflection of who we've been as a village, and we've got to stop blaming the child because they can't fix it.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I
Punishing
almost,
them, putting them in jail, beating, that's not going to fix the problem.
it
So when
hasn't
you
so
speak,
far.
so when you speak to that mother, because we're speaking in present day, we're speaking about
Yes.
individuals who are rearing young adults, as you stated the other
That's right.
day.
That's
Um,
exactly right.
young adults. If we're looking at, I don't know what, because I don't know what y'all was talking about, some indigo and some generation. I don't know nothing about that
Well,
stuff.
listen, you can find it on our YouTube channel. We have did what, two
Okay,
or three sessions on New Earth children,
okay.
because
So
we know we're here for the New Earth children. That's
so
what we
are we
need to
speaking
cultivate.
about those that are now in their that are now teenagers, and the parents are dealing with them on that level? So what I'm saying is that, how, when you speak on, how to communicate with them, a lot, is it too late? Is it too
It's
late?
no, because we
Listen,
just go ahead, Mama.
Doctor,
Go ahead,
yeah.
Doc. Go ahead,
I,
Doctor.
it's never too late. I mean, just a short interjection. When Michaela and I were having the issue of her lying, I would have her write about it and ask her why she thought it was like okay, because we hadn't gone through that. And so basically she said because she was always afraid I would either say no, or she was fearful about whatever would happen. And I was like, well, you're deciding for me. You're not giving me the opportunity to say yes or no, because 9 chances out of 10, whatever she wants, she can have. I don't even really care. Okay.
That's it.
But her mindset was that she's not going to let me. And so, we worked through it. And basically what I decided wasn't about lying. We weren't going to deal with lying. We were just going to decide that neither one of us would be dishonest with each other about whatever the situation was.
So Mama Marlene, I'm going to ask you this.
Yes.
How did that differ from the way you reared your children? Was it the same?
Girl,
see,
no.
That's what you see what I'm saying, Moo? It's
that's why we started off the conversation with how was communication in your house, and you guys did this whole rose colored. That's what I was trying to bring y'all back, because we have to disarm the place where we were raised in that type of energy. Because that's what we grew up in, and that's what we know. And then we did what? We brought it to our children.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we knew.
That's what we knew. Like you said, but that's where we also said that we forgave our parents, and we asked our children to forgive us. We apologize. So when you say, is it too late? The apology begins to clear the slate, because it's acknowledging that there was a disconnection. Like I messed something up.
So mothers and parents who are now rearing children in their, at whatever age, if you're listening, now is the time for that to bring forth that open communication, or to change or shift the communication within your home by offering an apology. I think is that the way to start?
Well, that could be, but before you can offer the apology, you first have to acknowledge for yourself where there's a disconnect, because just apologizing to apologize and then you go and do the same thing again, it's not pure. Right. You see, so it has to be, you have to actually assess the situation, and then know that within yourself you're willing to grow and to change, and not that you expect the child to grow and to change. Because even in that apology, you're going to still have to give room for that child to, first of all, test to see if you really right? They're going to test you. They're going to test you. Is she really going to be kind and thoughtful and considerate?
They're going to push it. They're going to push it.
They're going to push you. That's
until they believe.
Until they believe. You have to prove it now, because now everybody has to change. So if everybody's changing, let me see where the real change is happening.
And I'm also
like you said, though.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like you said, though, looking in the mirror, because everybody and everything is a reflection of you, whether you want to admit it, acknowledge it, or whatever. Because, when I had to look at the fact that this child is so me, I'm like, but to acknowledge that and to accept it and to like not be any kind of way about it. It is what it is. And so if you let it be what it is and look at it in order to transform it such that it becomes whatever in the moment it seems not to be, that you put in place in order to make that safe environment, where you feel protected and loved, and you don't have to worry about anything or anybody misusing you, abusing you, or telling you that you're less than this, that, or the third, or you can't do this, or you'll never do that because you Black. Okay, you Black, and are you short, are you funny looking, or whatever, I don't care. The way these children are being treated these days, for me, it's an unconscionable situation. I just don't even understand it, and how they're treating each other. The stuff Michaela tells me at school, how these children are, it's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, but see, that's where we want to hold space, because we do know why it's like that.
Well, yeah.
For us to say, I don't get it, I don't know, we get it. Yeah. We get it. And then we also have to hold room for the parents, because they were parented by unconscious parents too.
Yes, unconsciousness is prevalent. That's the thing. Consciousness and awareness, we have to So
this is why we created this format, so that we could get new perspective and fresh knowledge out there to people that can now talk to those young parents and those young mothers. Everybody need to be adopting a single mother family some kind of way.
Yeah,
You need to be
because
having
they don't know.
yeah,
They don't
you
know.
need to. If the mother is single parent and you a grandmother, babysit sometime. Invite them over to dinner. Create an environment where that young mother sees you as someone who can mentor and support her. We have to get back to the village. Our children are suffering because we have disconnected so hard and we blame them for who they are.
Yeah, that's like I told Michaela
Wait, Keisha,
back
wait a minute.
back
Let me get
then.
back to Keisha. Hold on. Keisha had,
Uh,
was somebody on the board, Keisha?
No,
Okay,
nobody.
good. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Fain.
the short version is that everybody in the neighborhood looked out for everybody's child,
Yes.
and it was like the village was active and prevalent. I mean, they had permission to chastise you, bring you home. I mean, it was just a whole different thing that is not now. You can't even trust what we had at that time in the moment, except for what we are striving and bringing forth, which is information, awareness, and consciousness.
Yeah.
That is as much about you as it is your child.
In
So,
our community. That's right.
oh yeah, and our community for sure.
Yeah.
But
And
love, we need
okay.
love in the world. But anyway, go ahead.
And I think that it's okay. I would like to encourage parents to know that it's okay to apologize without giving a but. It's okay, but you did this. But if you had not did that, then mama didn't have to do that, right? That part disconnects from the child, right? And this is even as an adult. This is even, for parents who have children who are now parents. You can still cultivate, you can still bless and encourage and give, and empower your young, your child or adult child and their parenting by apologizing for what you've done, and then encouraging them to do it a little differently, right? That's another way. But I'm listening to the apology, and I'm hearing what you're saying, but it's like don't cause a disconnect when offering your apology by telling the child or the person about what they did in that instance as well, because that does take away from the receiving what
And
is.
it's not sincere. It's not sincere when you do that either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that if you have I don't know, a discrepancy about various and sundry things, that if you're going to apologize, you don't do the yeah but thing. But I do believe that it needs to be discussed about, not before the apology, but the incident itself should be discussed about, what upset you exactly, and what upset me, etc. So you get a chance to hear their side of what their conversation was about, why they think you did blah, 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 blah.
And can you see that that's different? That's different how we were raised, because there was always this emphasis on you're supposed to respect the adult, but the adults were having no respect for the children.
Right.
Like,
And
how
children
does
should be seen and not heard.
how does a child learn respect unless they're first respected? Okay, so we have to really switch that around so that children, I love what Dr. Tammy is saying. She said, model your healing is the best teaching, right? So if I've learned how to respect myself, then I'm going to actually respect my children. And if my children see that I'm respecting them, they're going to automatically. And then when they don't, and you call them on it, it's not this because they then can see it right away because they know the relationship that you guys are having together.
So one of our listeners made a very good point in saying that she remembers when she called her mom to get advice about about parenting, and she offered the apology to her mother for her behavior and the things that she had done. But she also said in turn helped her in her parenting skills and
Absolutely.
how she began to communicate with her children.
Absolutely. And,
Let's
Mhm.
and
see. Go ahead.
now I was going to say, one of the things that we teach in our course called the Tao of Parenting, we actually go through that first part, having us get, because we do that whole put your parents on a pedestal kind of thing where we don't get to see them as human. Like you said, Dr. Fain, your son said you were growing up with us. It's like your parents didn't know everything when you were born, and of course they're open to their own mistakes and misconceptions. So what we want to do is we want to be able to create that energy, or that exchange of energy. Like she's saying that the child can come to the parent, because we actually demonstrate in our classes that children came to remind parents of who they are.
Ooh, say that one more time.
Okay.
And how they do that
Children.
there?
That's right, children. Like
Hmm.
our children, this is an African tradition, that teaches us that the children picked their parents before they came. And they pick them inside of a conversation to remind the parents of who they are, what they came here to do, to remind them of their mission and what they're supposed to accomplish,
Hmm.
right? But what do? As parents, we squash them first. We squash the kids so they never get to teach us. So if we can turn that around and allow the presence, not that our children sit and give us words, but their presence is what teaches us. Them being in our life, we make
Oh,
choices based on the children.
Right.
okay. Okay.
But elders have the tendency to um I don't they have the tendency to not listen to children. And you should, because because children are actually very wise. Some of the things that they say, I know once Michaela was upset and she said, I will light a fire in your soul that will never go out. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
I wrote it
goodness.
down because it was a wonderful statement. And so it's like that kind of stuff. But what I discovered most that assisted me in mine was allowing vulnerability to be present, and being vulnerable. I mean, it's more than a notion when you allow your children to see what you don't show. So,
Oh,
because if
oh.
and growing up with them, with mine, I was not vulnerable because I was working. I had 3 jobs, after school, all this, blah, blah, blah. And I had these children. So who I was then is not who I am now. It's a part of it, but it definitely is not who I am now because I know better, so I do better. And it's still a work in progress with a 14-year-old, so.
Well, that's why we want to be. I love that you mentioned the word vulnerability, because that does make a difference when we're communicating with young people. Instead of being inside of I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, I know more than you. You know, bring it down a little bit.
They don't care. They don't care no way.
Yes, because allowing yourself to be human, allowing yourself to be soft enough that you can have fun with them and not always dictate and tell them what to do, and it allows them the freedom as well to be vulnerable with you.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I did make a note to say that give allowing yourself to first be honest with, like you said earlier, to accept and be honest with yourself about who you are and where or how you were reared, and being able to open up. I want to say, just allow the child to be. How do you create that comfortable space?
Mm-hmm.
First, you got to deal with yourself first. And
Mm-hmm.
when you say that, a lot of times in in the moment, we don't realize that it's not really the child, right? We don't always see this. All of this is learned behavior for me, right? Over years of learning and studying, whether being in church or whether, doing my own research or being a part of Master Force. I've learned so much. So I am a parent, see, and I don't have those connections. I don't have a Master Force teacher in my
Well,
life.
yeah. So that's great, Keisha. Because one of the reasons why we actually, somebody told me, I don't know why you do that. Nobody's listening to you. I say nobody may say they're listening to us, but we can put the information out there, and there's a whole library. We have over 70 videos on YouTube on Ignite Your Soul Connection, where we're spending time and a good deal of time talking about the nurturing and care of children. And not just children, but relationships, our families, our physical, our health, and our well being. But here's the thing, in the moment, when you're not sure of how to bring love into the space,
Okay.
what's the first lesson that we use? What's the first lesson you learn in Master Force? Breathe.
Yeah, you gotta breathe.
I didn't
So
always
that's it.
breathe. I
That's
did.
right.
But see, do you see what I'm saying is, and I feel where you want to go. I'm in the conversation with you now, mute. As I wasn't, as you stated before, I wasn't really there. Now I'm connecting to it, and it's like, okay, yes, you know, yes, we have those moments when we yelling at the child because they're not listening. Yes, we're having bad days, right? And the child doesn't understand, that we just had, an argument with our boss, or somebody just cut us off.
That's not the child's
No,
responsibility.
no. That's exactly where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So we don't know to take that time to breathe. I didn't know that, and I'm gonna tell you guys. For me, it was my child, my son, for as a matter of fact, that said, "Mama, no, you be doing too much. Basically, you yelling and you running. Is there something you can do to get some help?"
And let the children lead the way.
Amen. Don't
Hello.
say.
Let the
Yeah,
children lead the way, because that is the honest to God truth
He
right
he
there.
said, he said, "Mom, may I speak to you in private?"
yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, "Yes."
Well, speaking
I am
speaking on
so
that
tired.
lying thing,
He told me, he said, "I can't take it no more.
he said he
You
can't
running
take it.
around here, you yelling, you screaming." He was like, "I love you," and all that good stuff. He gave it to me. And I'm gonna tell you what I did. I went to the doctor and I said, "My son said I yell too much. I need something to help me." And she was like, "Girl, just stop, basically just stop yelling.
But
But
And
here's the
breathe.
thing though. So yeah, you can stop yelling, but also you want to realize that you probably emulate your mother's voice.
I did. I know I did.
So
And
you so
I
the,
know I did.
yeah, so then the trick is to really, really, sometimes we purposely choose to model our mothers because we have so
Yes,
much love, even
yes,
in their unhealthy state.
yes, yes.
So we have to know that if you're imitating anyone, you're not being authentic and true to yourself.
But
Mhm.
see, that's not, again, I wanna say, for those who are listening to the recording, for those who are
Yeah.
joining us presently, that is a learned behavior. That is something that you discover, in your need for
So here's
right?
what's real though. Here's what's real. We
Yeah.
all have, and this is why we're telling people that during this time of the year, you have to sit back and listen to what's inside you, because there is a huge amount of communication from your soul.
Say it.
Before your son told you that, you knew
Yeah.
instinctively that you should not be yelling.
Yeah.
You just did not, you weren't held accountable to it until your son said something. And then it was like, really, I don't know what to do about it. And
Yes.
that's when you went to the doctor. You see that? But
Yep.
here's the, if you could have sat still in that moment and asked yourself, how do I stop yelling? And I promise you, yourself would have given you an answer.
Yeah.
This is the whole mechanism behind meditation and prayer. The
Okay.
answers are in you. We've been taught to run here and run there and ask this. You know, our whole coaching and master force is to do what? Teach people to hear their soul. We fire ourselves. We're not trying to line you up and have you paying us like we're therapists. No, we
Exactly.
want you to
Exactly.
discover the voice that's in you. You have
Yeah.
your
Feel
own
the
inner
fire.
voice. That's right.
Yeah. Go through the fire.
Yes.
Okay.
You.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because
And,
Michaela, when we were going through that situation, I had to stop and look at myself and say, where am I lying? Am I telling lies? What am I doing? I did. I stopped and looked at myself in a lot of areas because she was, as you say, brought to show me.
Yeah.
So as well as for me to guide her to the best of my ability based on the information that I have now that I was able to impart some good stuff to my children, praise the Lord. But this one will be far more
Well,
fortified.
I was going to say sometimes
yeah. Yeah.
greater than guiding children, we need to protect and shelter them and
Oh,
give them
absolutely.
and love them.
Yeah,
They do have their own inner guidance.
yeah,
Yes.
they
And you
do.
know
So
what? I'm gonna say to that.
we need to teach them to trust that. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Keith.
to trust themselves because she
I was
doesn't
gonna say
currently.
that that is absolutely correct because
Mhm.
now that part I did my part in sheltering and protecting.
Yes.
That's something that I, even though that's something I did, period. So that did allow my children, you know what I'm saying, to
Yes.
take time with themselves because they couldn't go here. They couldn't go, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I didn't have them doing all that they're there. They
Mhm.
talk about it now, we laugh about it now, but the individuals that they have become based off that, now that wasn't on purpose. I didn't know what I know now, but that was something that I did, and I understand that they did begin to cultivate their own self, just become their wonderful, most beautiful selves through being sheltered and protected, right? And I don't know what I was doing, and I'm just being honest. I did not know that
Well,
what
you
I
knew
was
what you
doing.
were
I
doing,
was
but
gonna
you didn't
say,
know
so
that you
see,
didn't were doing it.
I'm saying at that time I was not aware as
well,
I
yeah,
am
you may not have been aware, but intuitively.
now.
You see,
Mhm.
that's what we're saying. See, that's the space that we want our children to get to as well, where
Yes.
they can intuitively have that voice within.
Mhm.
But I want to move to the next question because we're getting down to the wire in time here.
Yes, yes.
What
I'm looking. I was
what practices can parents develop to actually make a more nurturing home through communication?
Well, I, I always say you gotta love you. You can't if like Ruth said, if you don't love you, how can you love somebody else? So I mean, because like you say, a home is like your hearth. It's like, you want it to be warm and loving and nurturing and where people, whoever is there, is protected and they know when they come through that door, they don't have the issues of the world to deal with. And I feel like it's the same for children. Like when they come home from school, they have hellacious days and all of that. So I would say that, welcoming them in, um, listening to what happened during the course of their day, which I've had to have myself do because I have not been attentive about that. It's like, that's your day, then your peers, you deal with it. But I stopped doing that. So I find that you need to listen to them and pay attention to what's going on inside them because they got a lot going on inside them. That's what I would offer. And to love them.
What would you say, Keisha?
I mean, to pick, I totally agree with Mama Doctor. that allowing that space, creating that space of love. Now that you hear the importance of your words, allowing them the freedom to speak, allowing yourself the freedom to be vulnerable and to yield. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that's coming to my mind is they're young adults, right? We tend to put them in that box, like it's okay to make your child your equal, right?
They're equal souls.
Yeah, it's okay,
They are
to have
equal
that
souls. They
conversation.
still have their learning, but guess what? We're learning too. But they
Yeah,
are equal souls.
and it's okay.
Masters come as babies.
Oh my God, do they not?
Yes.
I
So
mean,
we're that's right. We want to make sure that we get clear of the sacredness of
mhm.
our role as parents is that this is a master coming through and you're treating them as though they're nothing.
And I'm gonna say, like, even with my grandchildren, I know, just like Mama Doctor, I don't raise. I'm not my grandbabies. I call them God. I refer. I say, God bless you, God. I wake them up differently, right? So I'm just gonna say, as Bree said yesterday about going developing or learning the feng shui, and trying to make your home a safe haven or what have you. Even with this, it's okay that you didn't know before.
Yeah.
It's all right, that you didn't know, but you're gonna make a change, right? We're changing, and it's okay. And again, it's
And it's a
okay to be
process.
vulnerable,
It's a,
huh?
it's a
It's
What
a
you
process.
say, Mama?
process. It's a process.
Yes,
People
it
need to be,
is.
parents need to
It
be
is.
patient with themselves.
Please do. That's a good one. Be patient with yourself in this process.
Mm.
That's a good one. And then I think once your child, or once your young adult sees you, in that space, they'll begin, as you said, we create, we create the arts of communication through
Yes.
not just our words alone, but even our gestures, and just and then in our creation. I'll
How
say
you
that.
be, your way of
Yep,
being, your
yep.
way of being. I mean, if you, there's a thing on here where it says, how do we generate love in the heat of the moment? Um, and what makes the difference when communicating with young people? And I would just say your beingness, your being present and available, because if you're there with them and you're being authentic and you are speaking from your soul heart, um, they get it. They will get it because you will ensure that they get it in your delivery. Because they will get that you care enough that they hear what it is you're saying to them based on how you be. If that is your intent when you go wherever with young people, young or small, if it's your intent to love them and communicate to them with vulnerability and beingness, then they'll get it. I mean, in
Yeah.
my experience, they have. So
What I would add to what we could do is I really would suggest that we have play dates with our children. Uh, and not that we just buy them things. As a matter of fact, stop buying them things. Teach
What?
them how to earn things. Teach them how to use money to create. Teach them how to save and invest money. If you're only teaching your child to consume and spend, you're doing them a disservice. Okay, to see grown adults with 20, 30, 40, 50 pair of gym shoes is insulting to our community.
absolutely,
Okay, and people
absolutely.
have used that against us. We don't want our children to think that that's a high value item
Yeah.
that they need to get in order to feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
If they had no shoes, they could still feel good about themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's bowling, there's going to the museum, there's going to gardening, teaching them how to grow things. There's many of things that you can do with your children. You can create puzzles at home together, you can have game night. Okay, so this is how you get to know your children when you're sitting with them and there's nothing distracting you. Turn off the television, put the cell phones down. Have a night where cell phones go in a box and they stay there for a few hours while you all just hang out together. And if
Yeah, I
you
think
can't
you should
hang
go
out,
out to dinner with them.
go out to
Involve them.
dinner, but you
Yeah,
have to communicate.
one of our listeners said the same thing, that she has date nights with her children, and now
Yep.
she has date nights with her grandchildren.
That's
And the
right.
date nights don't have to be outside. I mean, they
No,
don't.
They can be
It could
inside.
be baking, it could be cooking, it could be
absolutely.
playing with the dog,
Yeah.
or watching a movie, or if not watching a movie, having
But you want it to be,
conversation.
that's right, where it's full attention on the child, because what our child are missing, they are missing attention.
Yeah. For sure, they definitely that. The thing I would just add before we depart again is that I believe that we can instill compassion in our children.
Yeah.
That to be compassionate for others and to have care for people, not that's detrimental to yourself, but to know, because I hear them say my life is this, that, and the other. And first I always say, well, you're not having bombs going off, and you're not having to drink nasty water and things like that. But then I stop, because their life to them seems disastrous at times I have to stop doing that. But compassion for other people, because it is sorely lacking. Michaela told me when she stopped trying to fit in, when she began to have problems with her peers. I said, well, good, because you don't need to fit in where you don't fit in. You don't have to. You don't fit in anyway. So, and that's been her issue.
Now, one of the things that I've been doing with my grandchildren when I go visit, I pull out the Destiny card book and we study one child one night.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
that's a
Yeah.
read
good
their
idea.
card. We
Yeah.
read their card, and then we look at their card in relationship to each of the other siblings, just as a way of them getting to know each other.
Yeah, that's what I had her do. I had her read her astrological sign and
Yeah.
and the things that she is beyond capable of doing, etc. So, but it's a
That's
process.
that uniqueness. Yeah, that has them feel comfortable in their uniqueness. You're unique, and so is everyone else, right?
Absolutely. That's the thing right there.
So we're coming to the end of the evening. How can people actually connect with you? They may have more questions. How can they find you?
Well, they can find me through Masterforce, and they can find me on Facebook. It would be Marlene Elizabeth Fain. I'm going to work on the LinkedIn thing to have that present. And, other than that, my phone number is available. So currently there's nothing that I'm doing that involves other people at this junction, but I can always be reached for whatever is needed, support wise, information, or, whatever I can do, I'm gonna do it.
What about you, Nicole, Keisha, Morgan, Splendor?
Morgan Splendor, I know.
Well, as for me, I am currently working with Master Force this week on the Ignite Your Soul as the producer. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm checking the site. Otherwise, Facebook at K Nicole, Instagram at Miss K Nicole, also Facebook at Morgan Splendor. You can find me there. Yes. Oh, and were you asking what work? Am I working on anything? Not anything where you can you can be a part of it. Not only do I work as a life coach, I also work in other facets, of course. So nothing with that, but I am offering encouragement sessions. Is this the time that I let people know about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, right now I am offering 11 individuals, free or partners, the opportunity to experience a complimentary encouragement meeting or session. And that information can be found on my Facebook page at Morgan Splendor.
Wonderful.
I'll just call you.
Well,
Anytime.
I just want to thank the two of you. Thank you for a very passionate discussion tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was like really good.
Yes.
The other thing is like books. I would recommend The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, and of course, The Prophet by Cahill Gibran,
Mhm.
and Giving by Cahill Gibran. So
Ooh,
And we'll
those,
post those, right? Right.
huh?
yeah, I'll post them. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you post them. So yeah, but yes, this has been thrilling. We must do this again.
Well,
Whenever.
we do it in the summer solstice as well. But that's why all of the coaches, you'll be able to find out all of the different things that they're doing for the spring. We usually launch newly in the spring anyway.
Yes.
So I do want to invite you all to continue with us for the rest of the week. Wednesday, we are talking about food that nurtures and heals with Dr. Tammy and Samira
Exactly.
Lee. And then on, what is it, Thursday, we're talking about chakras that are open to life. And that's going to be Teresa Lugo and Mother Mecca. And then we finish out with, we're talking about how you actually bring all of this together. We're tying it all up and we're looking at having our body and our home as a haven. So we're going to be finishing out the rest of the week very strong. So thank you for joining us, and we really appreciate you being here. And good night.
Oh, wait, before.
Thank you for listening to season 15 of Ignite Your Soul Connection Winter Solstice 2022 Home as a Haven. During this season, we invite you to take time to ground yourself in the goodness of your own soul. Silence, solitude, meditation, journaling, walks in nature are all wonderful ways to do this. And you will be glad that you did. See you next time. Thank you.